Welcome to another edition of Reverse Ambition, a podcast that features those who took a leap of faith to follow their passion and dreams. I'm very excited to have this brother on the podcast today. I admire his moves, admire his entrepreneurial energy, his drive. He is an author, he's a matchmaker, he's a TV host. I mean, I'm sure I'm leaving out a lot, but you're gonna hear from him directly. Welcome, Mr. Paul Carrick Brunson. What's up, good brother?
Hey, man, I appreciate it. I like how you said the whole name.
Yo, that's how, for some reason, that stuck with me, man. Paul Carrick Brunson.
Yeah, you know that's special that you said that, man. Because I remember when I was first trying to get my whole branding game down. I went with Paul Carrick Brunson because there was this other cat. His name was Paul Brunson.
Oh,
and he was like, yeah. So Paul Brunson. He's still alive. He's like roughly, we look the same, right? Roughly same age. He's from the D.C. area. So
wow.
I was born in New York, but lived mostly in the D.C. area. But he has been locked up for a long time.
Oh,
yeah.
I was wondering why you use Paul Carrick Brunson. It makes sense now.
That's the reason why.
Oh,
the reason why.
Anyways, So let's get to it. What I usually ask my guests, to take me through their journey in terms of where they grew up, where they went to college, where they majored in, and how you end up becoming an entrepreneur. So, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, man. Well, we were talking about this right before we got started, is that I appreciate the opportunity to go back instead of just talking about the now. But, in order to really understand how we do things now, you have to understand why. And the why is in the history and in the story. So I really like this format. But I was born in New York, in Queens in particular. And I grew up in my father's from South Carolina. My mother's from Jamaica. But we grew up, it was really a Caribbean neighborhood. And so it was more of that kind of like West Indian vibe. And then when I was maybe 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there, we moved to Long Island. So we moved to Massapequa. And that was a really interesting time because, all of my friends and everyone, they were in the city. We moved out. We were the first Black family to live in an all Italian neighborhood. And my father bought the house for dirt cheap, for nothing, because this mafia dude had been offed in the basement.
Oh, wow. Oh, really?
Yeah, it was crazy. And so that's I didn't learn about that later, but that's how he was able to get it on the cheap. But moving there, I literally witnessed white flight. So within a
reverse
year,
gentrification.
It was crazy. It was like within a year, maybe it went from Italian, one Black family, to all Black families.
Wow.
And it was, honestly, those were some of the best years of my life. It was just a great neighborhood, just great vibes. I had great friends that I know to this day. We were saying how you and I met through my friend who lived right across the street, Shayna Stevenson.
Yep. Shane is a homie.
So,
first guest on the show, on this podcast.
Man, Shayna is just like, her energy is just great. But that was everybody's energy, really, in the neighborhood. And so from there, my father, who is an entrepreneur, and he's a like really, really good entrepreneur. He has started in the basement of that home in New York. He started a company called ShortComp, which was a software. What he did is he wrote software for basically for anybody building communication equipment. So if you wanted to communicate between, basically base to up to a satellite or up to a plane, he would write that software. And a company bought him. And it was just him, but a company bought, like, quote unquote, his company. And that company was in Northern Virginia. So we moved up to Northern Virginia, and then the company that had bought his company then was then bought by another company out in California. So we moved out to California, and then the same thing happened. We moved to Salt Lake City, Utah. So we were just bouncing around everywhere, and at the time I hated it. Because it was disruptive. I never could keep friends.
Right.
Yeah, man. It was, especially too, you're trying to, all the girlfriends, you got to say goodbye to all the girlfriends.
Man. Man. It's, teenagers, your hormones are crazy. The hottest shorty on the block. And you're like, I got to go, babe.
It's like, that's the love of my life.
Right. I experienced that one time when I left Jamaica, but that's another story.
Yeah, it's just terrible, So, but looking back though, it was great because I realized it forced me to have to learn to make friends quick. It forced me to learn to up my communication game, to up my being satisfied with being alone, because I'm the new kid on the block. So, I'm not going to have friends for a minute. So I got to be happy just, on my own for that week or 2 weeks,
Right.
So it was, I think it was good in hindsight.
Taught you how to be a loner? Is that, kind of sort of what?
Yeah. That's a really good question. I think it taught me to be, content and happy with myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can relate to that.
Yeah. As we get older, especially, being in the matchmaking space and others, is that I truly believe that our number one responsibility in life is to love ourselves. Like that's our number one responsibility, because everything that we do good and great comes from our ability to love ourselves, and everything that we do bad and whack comes from our inability to love ourselves.
Wow.
And so at an early age, I didn't realize that that's what was happening, but
you were forced to love yourself. You were forced. Right.
Yeah, man. So that was really good. And I was happy just being on my own, and I learned to just be able to create and develop. So I always had jobs, always, working, hustling, what's interesting too is I didn't hustle for the money. I love getting a check, but I really, even at 13, 12, 11, I really hustled for the, how could I figure out how to do this thing better? Be more efficient. One of my first jobs was selling, I would sell cans of Coca-Cola to construction workers in our neighborhood, or actually it was the neighborhood next to us. And, I would literally sit down because my aunt would, we were moving everywhere. So my aunt would say, be in touch with your feelings. So write those things down, you should journal. And so at an early age, she gave me, a pen, a little journal book, but instead of writing my feelings, I would write down ideas on how to perfect what I was doing on my business game. So I would write down okay, a can of Coca-Cola costs, whatever,
wow,
15 cents. But if I get, a bag of Doritos and I add that, then I can actually increase the price by, more than double that. And, so I would just write down.
How old were you when you started?
I was probably 11,
okay.
11 to 12. Yeah. And so that then, writing down those business ideas, how to be better at delivering the product or whatever it was, that led me to writing full-blown business plans.
Around 11, 12.
Man, yeah. But I would say it was full-blown by the time I got to maybe, 15.
How many business plans you wrote during that time?
Oh, man. man, countless. Like
Wow.
it was countless ideas, man. Like even when I look back, I was like, yo, I had some really good ideas. Like
Right.
I had like maybe 16 years old, I had the idea. I was like, you know what? Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, and Kentucky Fried Chicken need to get together and just it needs to just be one drive through because I, I would like to be able to get
You want
two
options.
piece plus yeah just one thing and then yeah I mean I was it was one of those where it was idea generation and I realized
Hmm.
too later in life that that is really what that's really the most important element of entrepreneurship
Hmm.
is being able to innovate. And that was, like my incubator for being able to innovate. So, man, I was writing like literally like full blown business plans. Like, man, here's what the marketing should look like. Here's what
Wow.
here like even like and I was good with finance. So it was like, here's what the profit will be.
Hmm.
So that was my hobby. It was the nerdiest thing in the world, but that was my hobby.
Right.
And by the time I graduated from high school, so when I got into by the time I got late into high school, I think all of that stuff, being the loner, moving around everywhere, the falling in love with the hustle,
Hmm.
uh, things started to turn left for me. I got in trouble with the law. Like it
What?
was,
Word?
man, yeah. It
How?
was,
How, Sway?
it, man, it was. I think looking back, what I realized what it was is, I think it was really two things. One is, I think that uh, we all want to feel that we're heard, in
Mm.
life. Like, I think one of the worst things you could do is
Not
live a
being
life
heard or not being seen or not.
exactly
Hmm.
feel like you because what that means is kind of speaks to your value. Like, wow,
Hmm.
I have no value. If nobody cares about anything I say and anything I do, I have no value.
Hmm.
And so, at a young age, when you feel that way, you then you then start to act out to search for that validation somewhere else.
Right. Right.
So for me, what it was is it was, man, I need to search for like that validation somehow. So my thing is, everybody had their, I guess their thing that they turn left on.
Hmm.
But my thing that I turned left on was, man, I literally started like breaking into cars.
What?
Yeah. And it wasn't, cause so keep in mind, this was the kid who was writing business plans.
Exactly.
So I wasn't just like, I'm gonna break into the car and I'm going to take the change out of the thing. It was, no, I'm gonna break into the car and then I'm gonna go drive this car up to somewhere and I'm gonna sell it. So, the so
Wow.
I had a whole like major thing that that then forced me to to be that loner again
Hmm.
because I was,
You didn't have any
so when I was
accomplices. You were just doing it by yourself.
man, no, I had accomplices.
Oh, okay.
But I had started by myself though,
Oh, so you're the
and,
leader of the
and
pack.
man, and I like brought on a crew,
Uh huh.
and it was terrible because, man, some of the folks, the fellas in the crew, they were over 18 and over 21.
Mm.
So when eventually when we got caught, because everybody gets caught eventually,
Hmm.
man, folks did real time. The
Wow.
folks who were 18 and 21, and even and I even had some, had some time.
Mm.
And so by the time I got to college, I was my first year. I was on probation.
Yo, I would never. I don't think a lot of people knew this story, bro. Know this story.
Man, yeah, I don't think I've ever. publicly told this.
Where did he go to school?
Uh,
College.
yeah, it's Old Dominion.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he was on
Went to Old
probation your
Dominion
freshman year.
my freshman year. I was the only, like, I literally had a PO. Like, people are like, who is this guy coming to visit you? You know,
Did you look the part? Did you look rough? Like, don't mess with me.
you know what? I did this whole, like, my whole look started to change because, so I went from rough, like, I look rough, to I started to get, like, cleaned up a little bit.
Okay.
And then what happened is literally a moment that changed my life forever is, so, freshman year, I'm at ODU. I really could care less about anything.
Uh-huh.
I've got a probation officer. It's like one of those where I've got, my 3 best friends are still locked up. It's one of those where it's like, whatever, but saving grace really is my then girlfriend, who now has become my wife.
Oh, wow. Oh, you met your wife freshman year?
I actually met her the summer before freshman year.
Wow.
But yeah.
So
So
she put some sense into you. She knocked some sense into you.
man, she calls us her joke now is she's Captain Saber Brother. That's her, that's her joke. But she was like, literally, man, this moment changed my life. Is I honestly could care less about school. A matter of fact, my GPA, by the time we went through our first semester, my GPA was 0.4.
Wow.
Not a 4, 0.4.
Wow.
And
so how did he? Quick pivot. How did you guys meet? Like, I was just hanging out. You was the rough dude. She, like how girls like bad boys.
Yeah, but so she didn't like me at first.
Oh.
Yeah. What happened was we met on the summer before school started. You know how you like kind of go to visit the school,
right? Orientation, all that.
Yeah. I had gone. My father brought me up because at that point they were like, okay, we can't trust him, anywhere by himself.
Right.
So it was like me, my father, then everybody else, just like kids by themselves, and it was me and him, and so she was in my orientation group.
Wow.
And she, the 2 things. One is I thought she was like beautiful beyond, but then on top of it, she scored the highest in this test. I don't know what test. We had to take some kind of whatever test, and she got the highest score. And I remember the teacher pointing her out, like, Jill Cobbs has the highest score, that kind of thing. And I thought, wow, she has got beauty, brains, like all of it. And then when I talked to her, she's from Richmond, so she had that kind of Southern thing. And for me, growing up, I was obsessed with A Different World, the show Different World, and I was obsessed with Whitley.
Oh, word.
Yeah, man. So
she was your Whitley.
She was my Whitley. I was like, wow, this is crazy, So, but we were just friends, and literally we were friends through, just literally we were friends that became best friends.
Okay.
And yeah, but that one moment though is we were in the library, and I'm sorry, not the library. We were in a bookstore because she was getting books for class, and I could care less. I was just there because
she was there.
She was there.
All right, Dwayne.
yeah, exactly. And so, like, she kind of was standing by this one bookcase, and I was just looking, and I saw on this bookcase, I saw this book with this black man on the cover, and he was smiling. He had this sharp suit on. He had this big cigar in his hand, and the title was "Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun?"
Oh, okay.
And I looked at that book and Kelsey,
Reginald
this is,
Lewis.
man, Reginald Lewis's book. And at that moment, or to that moment, I had never read a book cover to cover.
Oh
Never,
wow.
never. Like I'm talking about literally high school, middle school. I'd always, flip through some of it, but never cover to cover. And so I looked at that book and I said, wow, this makes sense. Why should white guys have all the fun? Like, it was one of those where, like, yeah, you're right. Why should
It
I?
was
White?
like the
So
epiphany, right? Like,
it was crazy. I picked it up off the shelf. I flipped through it, started reading it. And then my girlfriend, my now wife, Jill, she was like, hey, let me just get this for you. You should get it. And I was like,
wow,
what? Okay, get a book? Okay, I'm getting a
wow,
book for this. And got the book. I read the book in 3 days
wow.
and literally changed my life. The book changed my life. And I started to do all the things that I saw him or heard him say that he was doing in the book.
Mm.
I started to get mantras and I was like, let me start to work out and, let me start mentoring. And I enrolled in the Big Brothers, Big Sisters program. I just, started to change my life. It was literally the book. Like a lot of people say, oh yeah, I had lots of things happen in my life to change it. No, it was the book,
You know
that
exactly
book.
what time and place and thing that got you, pivot, make you pivot, you know, you know,
Hard,
hard.
hard, pivoted hard. So I literally went from I literally went from, so I was suspended my first year in school because my GPA was so low.
Oh wow.
And so I was suspended my first year, and I literally went from having a point 0.4 and suspension to coming back, and I basically got like literally almost all A's when I came back, and
Wow.
I had 3 years of racked up almost all A's to the point where I graduated with honors.
Wow.
Yeah,
Dang.
and
Put
yeah,
in that
man.
work.
Man, I put in work. I'm telling you, it was the book. Like it was what it was. Going back to the seeking validation, the confirmation is. I think what I was looking for is I was looking to see somebody doing it big
Mm-hmm.
that looked like me,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't believe that I could do it big. So like for DC, for example, my best friend, his brother just sold dope,
Mm.
and he was doing it like he did it bigger than anybody I'd seen do it. And because that was my best friend's brother, he treated me like his little brother.
Mm.
And seeing the respect he got, the women he got, the clothes he had, he was the first one. We lived in Northern Virginia. He was the first one to like bring me to DC, to see, okay, this is what y'all do in DC. It was,
Mm-hmm.
he was doing it big. And so, so I just aspired to that. I was like, okay, so
That was your
that's,
trajectory until you saw the Reginald Lewis book.
yes, yes. And I saw Reginald Lewis was doing it on a whole nother level,
Uh-huh.
and so that, yeah, so it changed things for me. And, so then when I graduated from college, from ODU, I applied to like 100. No, I'm sorry, that wasn't 100. It was maybe, what was it, 60 different investment banks,
Mm.
from big investment banks to small. And I thought it was a, it was going to be hard for me to get because my academic career, even though it was strong at the end, it started off so weak,
Mm-hmm.
so I got passed over by all the big, basically I got passed over by every bank with the exception of one investment bank out of Richmond, Virginia.
Mm.
And they just liked the hustle and liked what they saw. So I ended up getting a job with them, and it was great because my wife was from that area,
Okay.
and so her family was there. So I had, and by that time we had been dating for the 3 years. So I had like a nice little support group there, family and friends, and went in there hungry, and met my best friend Andre Smith, who worked at the investment bank, and and then that taught me, man, finance at the highest level, and investing, and and entrepreneurship at a whole nother level, and I performed really well at the investment bank. And at that time too, that was the dot-com kind of bubble happening, and people were raising money. Lots of people were raising money, and so I was like, I can raise money too. So I came up with this idea, and I started pitching it to investors, and I raised $100,000. Boom.
Wow.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah. Just like literally, and when I say it was just like that, it was, I remember I booked a meeting with this guy. I went into his office. So I went to his office. He then invited me out to dinner. I then went to dinner, and he had asked for some additional information. So then I brought back like this Bible stack of like research. And I remember sitting it on the table, and he said, I'm not going to look through that. He said, what we do here is, he said, we bet on the jockey. We don't bet on the horse. The horse, that's what's on that paper, the ideas. He said, I'm betting on you.
Wow.
And so literally he pulls out his checkbook and he writes $100,000.
Wow. What was the business plan? What was the business?
It was kind of wild, right? But the essence of it was, it was animal shelter. It was called Animal Spot. So, there are, I don't even know how many there are now, but say tens of thousands of animal shelters, all around the country. And the problem at that time is they didn't have software to manage how many, dogs and cats that they had. Because you think an animal shelter may have 50 dogs and cats, right?
Right.
But each one has its own schedule, feeding schedule, medication. If they're adopted, it would be best to collect the information of who's adopting them, right? It was all of this data that they didn't have. And what we did in this company is we designed software for the animal shelters.
So this was a side hustle, or were you still an investment banker?
Full time.
But so you left the investment bank, or you're still?
Yeah. I straight up left investment banking. The moment that we raised the money,
Oh, okay.
I left. Yeah, I left him. Matter of fact, so we got the investment, and then as soon as we got the investment, is I built out a team. Of it was me, it was my CFO, Brian McCauley, who was also worked at the investment bank. We had a CTO, Aram Terminasian. He was a developer, and we all then moved to Northern Virginia. So we were in Richmond. We moved to Northern Virginia because that was like AOL was like really popping hard in Northern Virginia.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was really like this tech mecca. My aunt and uncle lived in Northern Virginia, and they gave up their basement. And so we literally moved into so I moved into my aunt's house. They moved into their different family members' house. We all went full time, and we worked out of my aunt's basement.
How did your girl react when you were like, I'm leaving my 9 to 5, making good money in investment bank to do the startup?
Oh man, she was all about it.
Word?
She's been ridiculously supportive of every move that I've made that seemed crazy.
How long were you at the investment bank?
2 years.
Okay. All right.
2 years. Yeah. But we raised the money. We came up to Northern Virginia, and man, things were like for a few months, things were epic. Because we were first to market. our business model was real simple. It was, we design the software, we give it to you for free,
Mm-hmm.
and you use it, but we then take the data and
Ooh.
we sell the data to pet food manufacturers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man. So think like, let's say that you make dog food or you make, a leash or whatever it may be. The best thing you could have is the data of potential customers,
Right.
right? And so we would say, okay, well, we know that Kelsey Cooper bought this Doberman Pinscher who has arthritis
Right.
and needs your medication, and here's his address
Let
and his
me
phone number.
let me sell a sample to this brother right now.
Exactly. Exactly. And then boom, so it was major win because they wanted the data, whatever. So man, it was really good. We started, that was my first exposure to buying a business.
Mm.
So we bought a business. We bought out this guy who he had this patent on this collar. Basically that was the beginning of the technology where they implant the chip
Mm.
into the pets. But the chip was basically on the outside of the dog. So we not only had the software, but we then had a chip that sat on the collar of all of these animals. So man, we had wild data that we could sell. And so it was all good for a second, for a couple months. Then,
What happened?
man, everything happened. Like everything that you could imagine happened bad. So first is we weren't profitable, so we had to raise more money.
Uh-huh.
So we were out trying to raise money, couldn't raise the money. Secondly is we were the first to do this, to do this in the space. Then all of a sudden you've got 50 other companies, doing it.
Wow.
The third thing, and this is real, is, man, think about this. Most of these animal shelters are in these rural country, backwoods, Virginia, Kentucky, and here's this black dude showing up,
Wow.
to sell you on this thing. Or I would go to pet manufacturer, expos.
Uh-huh.
I'd be the only brother in the spot. Like people would look at me like,
What are you
who
doing
are
here?
you? What are
Right.
you doing?
How did that make you
And
feel? Did you you were like, whatever, you were focused.
yeah, I mean, at first I was whatever, but then what hit me, and this was the biggest lesson from that whole business, what really hit me was that I wasn't passionate about pets or animals. I didn't really grow up with any pets. Like I killed my pet. The only pet that I had,
Wow.
and when I say kill,
I
it
don't
was a
I don't want to hear
gerbil.
that story.
It was a gerbil that I was like, I don't want this gerbil anymore, and I just
Right.
kind of left him outside. But it wasn't anything I was passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And I was passionate about just the idea of being a CEO. I was passionate about, on paper, I'm already worth $3 million. Like
Right.
it was that stupid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wasn't passionate about the business. And so we ended up selling. So this was another thing that I learned too, is by that time we had, a great like advisory team and lawyer
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff. And they all knew that the business was going to flop and that we weren't going anywhere. So they were like, the best thing you could do to position this, for your story, for your career, all this thing is you got to sell this. You got to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up finding this company who was like somewhat in the space, and they ended up buying it. And I remember it was such a front. We were like, yeah, we sold a company for an undisclosed amount. And that's
Right.
true. We sold it for undisclosed amount. It was like $9.
What?
Yeah, that was the undisclosed. It was like
Oh
some
wow.
ridiculous nothing because they had to assume our debt.
Right.
When they bought the company, and we
Got
were
you.
already running some debt.
How was your
So
investors? How do they feel about the situation?
you know, I think he was understandable because it was understandable because we had run the company. It was several years.
Okay.
So he had put up 100K, and we basically floated this thing for several years off of the 100K and
Mm-hmm.
just like kind of hook or crook stuff.
Right.
And he knew that, you know, out of his 10 investments, that 9 were going to blow up. He would
Right.
only ride one. So yeah, man. But that was it was a great lesson, man. It was like it's better than going to business school. You know, I eventually went to business school, but that was much better than business school.
Right. So sold the company. What did you do next? Where you?
Sold the company. Then I was like, man, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? By that time, I was married. You
Okay.
know, yeah, I got married in between that, and we were in Northern Virginia. My wife and I had a place in where were we? Arlington. That was September 11th. That's right when that was. But then I ended up getting a job at Kaplan Test Prep,
Okay.
and I ended up getting it was a great gig actually. I ended up becoming the director for their second largest center in the world, and I was their youngest director, and I was their first black director for what they call a super center,
Mm-hmm.
and basically like I had a staff of like I don't know, it could have been 30 something people plus 100 plus teachers. It was about a $6 million budget. And the only reason why they gave me that gig is because I, had been running this other company for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. And then very quickly, by year 2 or 3 of being this director at Kaplan, I started coming up with an idea for another business. And, that was, I saw that there was a big gap in services for basically black kids.
Mm.
We didn't have a lot of black kids coming to our centers, and I understood it was about the model, right? Our
Mm-hmm.
model was we sell to rich parents, but I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking that a better model is sell to institutions like schools, and that way the kids would get the services.
Right. Right.
So that was my idea. And then, I mean, this by itself is probably a 5-hour story, but long story short is I met this dude who ended up changing my life. His name is Enver Yücel, who became my mentor. He lived in Turkey,
Oh,
and
how the hell you met him?
man, that is like, I mean, the short story of that is, it was a fluke. It was like he and his whole team had come into our center, our Kaplan Center, to tour it.
Uh-huh.
And they were touring because he runs a similar business back in Turkey.
Oh.
And this is why it goes to show that, like always be on point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, on the tour, they were asking me lots of questions, and they were very impressed with how I was answering the questions.
Mm-hmm.
And they were impressed at the fact that of how, young I was to be in that position.
How old were
And
you
so,
around that time?
man, what was it? So what year was that? That was 2003. I was probably 25, 26.
Wow.
Yeah. And most, like literally most of the folks on my team were the senior folks on the team were maybe, 10, 20 years older.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of shocked
Right.
Enver Yücel. And so they invited me out to dinner that night. And I wasn't going to go, but it just so happened that, like, my wife had to stay late at her job. She was working at a law firm here in D.C.
Uh-huh.
And so I ended up going to the dinner. And at the dinner, I met his whole team. And literally at that dinner, he was like, if you ever want to do something in this space, I would like to do it with you. And on top of it, I want you to come work for me.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I didn't immediately go. What happened is over the next year, I just continued to build with him.
Okay.
So every time he or somebody from his team would come to DC, I would meet with them. I would help them. You know, if they wanted to get a meeting set up with somebody, I would just help them, just off the strength of just building, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time we got to the end of that year, I was more, that idea that I had of launching my own business. It was more graduated, and I had flipped my idea from, hey, I want to launch this big for-profit business to, I just want to run a nonprofit, and I want to basically provide high quality tutorial services to Black kids.
Okay.
And I went to the NAACP. I remember I went to the National Association of the Black MBA. Like, I went to all these groups. NSBE I went to, and I was trying to raise money.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't raise the money that I needed. I couldn't get the donations that I needed to get the nonprofit off. So, man, I was talking to my wife, and she was like, yo, you're friends with a very wealthy guy out in Turkey.
Right.
Why don't you ask him? And I was thinking, well, why would he want to donate to prep Black kids out here, you know? And so she was like, well, you don't know. You got until you ask.
Right.
So I emailed them. I was like, hey, I want to come out to Turkey. Had never been to, didn't even know where Turkey was on the map.
Oh, wow.
And they were like, okay, you want to come out? We got you, Paul. So they got a ticket for me. They flew me out to Istanbul. And the first day I hit Istanbul, there was a bombing, a terrorist bombing.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah, 67 people died.
Wow.
And that was a moment that changed my life, because I could have been caught up in that. I was close to where it was.
Mm.
But the reason why it changed my life is because I saw how they got down, and I liked it, because as soon as the bombing happened, I was like, bring me back to the hotel. Like, I'm staying in the hotel. Like,
Right.
I'm staying on lockdown. And Mr. Ugel's nephews, who are my best friends to this day. As a matter of fact, I was literally just talking to one of his nephews earlier today.
Uh-huh.
But they came to my hotel, and they said, why are you in the hotel? They said, we're going out tonight.
Wow.
I said, what?
After the bombing.
They said, no, we're going out to the club. We're going out. He was like, you know, and I said, why? He said, because we're celebrating that we're alive. You know,
Wow.
we're
Okay.
celebrating life. And I was like, I can work with that. And I went out there. We went out. We went to this crazy club that valet parked yachts, and it was just one of those where it was such a wild experience. But long story short, I was in Istanbul for a week, and at the end of the week, I decided, okay, I'm going to pitch Mr. Ugel. I'm going to pitch him on this idea and just see if he'll maybe write me a check. Maybe he'll write a check for like $50,000 as a donation, and that would help get me started, and I can go full time.
Mm-hmm.
And I pitched him, and he looked at me. He was like, well, I've got a deal for you. He said, I'm going to donate to your nonprofit, but I'm going to give you more than $50,000.
Wow.
But in exchange, I want you to run my business in America.
Wow.
And I was like, I'll take it.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win. So what was funny is I was like, okay, so where's the paperwork? You know, like, where do I sign? He said, no, we don't do any paperwork. He was like, I just shake your hand.
Wow.
And if I shake your hand, then I mean it. And I thought, well, I don't know about this. If I like, this is shady. Like, what?
Right.
So you're promising me like all this money, and you want me to shake your hand, and on top of it, you want me to go back and quit my job, you know, and like, I can't do that. And they were like, no, this is how we operate. You either like, this is the way it is, or like you trust us or you don't.
Wow.
So I flew back, and I was talking about my family, and everybody was like, Paul, don't go into work on Monday and quit. Like, you're crazy. You're crazy. Like, nope, this doesn't happen. Like, no way. You can't trust them. I went in on Monday and I quit.
Wow.
Quit my job.
You
And I'll never
basically just leap of faith and just trusting this brother, this man? You were like, yo, I'm done.
Yeah, I was like, I just trust him, you know, and but I think this is why, like, your life is this, you got to accumulate skills all throughout life, and
Mm-hmm.
from from like being in the streets to not, like, I think I had developed an eye for, like, can I trust? Like, I think
Right.
my intuition, was high, and so I trusted him, and so he had promised that if I quit, then they would send me the wire immediately, and then I could start to get his business up and, like, start to, like, make things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I quit. I reported back. I was like, okay, I quit. So, Turkey is, like, I think, what, like 7 hours or something ahead of us here in DC. So I was expecting the wire confirmation on the next day, Tuesday. It didn't come.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday, it didn't come. Thursday, it didn't come. Friday, by this time, man, I'm like, wow, he got me.
Ah,
Like, this was
what
it
was
was
your
a
wife saying
setup.
during this time?
She was like, oh, he set you up.
Right.
It was a setup. But about a week, maybe it was 10 days later, the wire hit.
Oh
You
wow.
know, and I was like, oh, okay, where are these? They're like black people, like, they're just late.
Right, right,
It's just
right,
like, I
right.
get it. I get it. I
Most
get
people
it.
will not do that though, right? Most brothers will be like, nah, I'm not quitting this job. So, like you said, that skill you acquired in terms of how to judge character, serves you well in a situation.
It helped. It helped. And then that whole thing, man. That whole thing is its own chapter, man. I
Mm.
did 5 years with that family, and life changing to this day. They're close friends of mine. At that time he was worth a couple $100 million, and since then he's now worth over $1 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, Enver Joe. And he put me on to the next level of the game, in
Mm-hmm.
life, and introduced me to incredible people, put me on the board of his company. So
Mm-hmm.
I sit on the board of his company. I just saw life at a whole nother level,
Mm-hmm.
and he just kind of taught me about business at the highest degree, at the highest level,
Right.
and that then emboldened me and empowered me to, then start this whole nother career. So then I quit working with him, and I went and became a matchmaker. You
Okay.
know,
How long did you work
and
for
that's how
him?
the matchmaker thing. I worked with him for 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and he held to what he promised. We built I built up my nonprofit, uh,
Uh-huh.
and I built up his business.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did for him is I led his investments in the U.S.
Mm.
And it was great. And a matter of fact, it was doing the nonprofit work that led me into matchmaking.
Okay.
Yeah, because we had won a contract for DC, and we were administering a summer program for these high school kids out in DC, mostly from Southeast. And we had built it up. Like, I had 12 full-time people just working in the nonprofit.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was legit, man. A matter of fact, I mean, he got a bad rap back in the day, but a lot of football players were funding a lot of great programs. Like, Michael Vick was one of the first people to write us a check for the
Mm.
nonprofit. Man, good folks who really looked out for the community. So what we would do is we would run programs for them. So, like, say Michael Vick was doing the Michael Vick Summer Academy,
Oh, okay, I got it.
he would bring us in to teach the kids at the Summer Academy.
Mm.
So we had projects all up and down the East Coast,
You
from New
guys were the
York all
back
the way
end back end of these things, these
exactly,
programs.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So we did a lot of football, a lot of basketball programs, a lot of schools, and then we started to even move up the kind of chain, and then full on municipalities and cities were hiring us.
Wow.
So literally DC hired us to come in and run this program.
Wow.
And so we were running a program. And I mean, at that time, I was living a dream life. I had a nonprofit organization that was doing this amazing work. At the same time, I was basically leading investments for a guy that was close to being a billionaire. I was flying back and forth between Istanbul and New York, and I'd go out to Paris or go to. It was crazy. I was in the most ridiculous meetings in the world. Like, man, I remember one time I got a call from Turkey, and they were like, Mr. Yücel's friend. No, I'm sorry. I was in Turkey, and Mr. Yücel was like, I want to make sure that my friend gets his carpet. Like, it was because in Turkey, their textiles are everything. So it was this, like finely made, carpet. And he was like, I want you to bring this to my friend because I want him to, I want to show him that much respect. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm running this company. You want me to bring carpet to somebody? But
Right.
I never doubted him. I just, whatever he said, I would do it. Right. Because I respected him. So I was like, okay, so who's the friend? He was like, okay, here it is. So he writes the name down, or like his assistant wrote the name down, wrote the address. I never really looked at it until I got to DC. So I'm in DC, and I'm literally got this carpet in my car, and I look at it, I was like, oh my God, this address is the Supreme Court.
Wow.
It was Justice Scalia.
Wow.
and I brought this carpet in, and here I am in his private chamber, and he's like, sit down, and of course his politics I personally disagree with, but it's pretty interesting when you see yourself sitting having a drink with Justice Scalia. That it was just like I felt like I was living in a whole nother world. But what it did is it emboldened me. It emboldened me to believe that I literally could do anything.
Right.
Not in an egotistical way, but just in a, if you put your mind to it, you can do it. You can get it done. So when we were running that program in DC, and I saw that not one of those 100 kids that were in our program had two parents in the household, I started looking at that saying, damn, we're doing tutoring, right? But fundamentally there's something missing in Black households around fathers not being in the Black household. And then one of the counselors joked me and said, Paul, why don't you become Hitch? and if you become Hitch, you could just hook up all the moms.
Word.
And it became this joke. It was like all summer long. The kids were joking me. The staff, everyone was like, oh, here's Hitch. He's going to be Hitch.
Wow.
Man, I was like, you think this is a joke? Okay. All right.
You're looking at it, there's a reason for this. There's a reason for this. Let me explore that a little bit more.
Man, I went full on in. I did my research. My wife and I did this thing called the brown sugar party in our house where we were inviting people over, and people who were single, friends of ours, and I just saw that there was a space, there was a way. So at the brown sugar party, we would play this game, and I saw that it was a game. It was a really cool game to bring people together, like especially men, women. It was kind of like Black Jeopardy, but it included drinking.
Right.
So I thought, you know what? I can't build another business. I'm already doing all this stuff. Let me just kind of license this idea to an existing company. So I started researching what are the companies I could sell this idea to. And I found out that there were these people called matchmakers. I'd never heard of a matchmaker in my life. Never thought that there was, an actual like real life Hitch people. And so I started contacting them to see if I can get on the phone and try to hustle this idea to them, basically. And they nobody would respond to the call. Nobody would message me back.
You were just cold calling these people, or?
Yeah, I went onto their website. I would drop them emails, and
Okay.
I would do emails and then calls.
Okay.
But nobody. And when I say, it was maybe 11 people that I messaged. But there was this one matchmaker who was doing this like table for eight or something like that. Like she was doing like this kind of thing that was close to what I was doing. So I thought she was perfect. And when she didn't message me back, I went to her website and I saw that on her schedule, of places that she's speaking, that she was going to be speaking at a Matchmaker conference in New York. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to buy a ticket to this conference. I'm going to go to the conference and I'm going to just pitch her directly, because this is such a good idea.
Right.
So I bought my ticket. I went to the conference. I got there late and I had to sit in the back of the room. And when I was sitting in the back of this conference, I was just looking at everybody and I was thinking, wow, there's like 250. These are of the world's top matchmakers, and nobody in the room is black.
Wow.
No, there are no men. It's just white women in the room.
Uh-huh.
And then how they were describing because this was a business conference for matchmakers. So
I didn't know there was such a thing.
Yeah, man. I didn't even know either. I was like, this is crazy.
Right.
And I saw how they were talking about their businesses, and this is no disrespect to that organization, which now I sit on the board of.
Uh-huh.
But I thought it was like the conversation was really basic. Like, wow, like if they are, because the matchmaking agency used to be a lot of basically moms who are stay-at-home moms who wanted just a really cool hobby side gig.
Oh.
So long story short, man, another light bulb went off.
So what did you do with the nonprofit? You sold it, or you left it?
So immediately I said, I want to do this. I got on the phone with my wife, my man Dre, my best friend from investment banking days. He met me because he was working in New York, and I told him, I said, man, I'm gonna become a matchmaker. This is a good lane.
How did your wife react? Another one?
My wife was like, do it.
Wow.
She's always been just like, all right, let's do it.
Wow.
Let's do it. And my man Dre was like, let's do it. Let's get it done. Let's do it. Everyone else said, Paul, you're crazy. Don't quit. Don't do. So here's what I did. So I literally got on a train back to DC.
Uh-huh.
I then literally emailed to Turkey, and I said, I'm booking a flight. I'm coming to Turkey like this week. And I went to Turkey and I quit.
Wow.
And I told them, I said, like, this has been the greatest thing in the world for me. But, I need to keep doing things that force me to like be uncomfortable.
Right.
And I was like, there's nobody black doing this.
Mm-hmm.
There's no men doing this. There's nobody my age. Like, I'm either going to go into this industry and blow up or blow up.
Right.
Like,
Right.
It's going to be one of those where, so they said, fine.
So what happened to your nonprofit, the one that you?
So the nonprofit, by that time, I had partnered with a woman who is now, she's more of my best friend. I'm mad because my wife stole her from me.
Mm-hmm.
But her name was Richie Holmes.
Uh-huh.
Richie Holmes had a test prep organization. And so we merged.
Oh.
And to this day, she still runs the test prep organization.
Wow.
out of Prince George's. So I found a safe home for both. And I, and then I spent the next year of my life learning to become a matchmaker.
Wow. Is that around the time we met?
Yeah, man. That was after we met the next year
Okay.
after. Yeah, that's right around when we met. So I spent a year just kind of studying the space, laying low. I went out to Denver and spent some time with the world's top matchmaker. I kind of became like a mentee of hers, and then by a year later, I was trying to figure out how to launch my business, and I didn't know how to do it. And once again, my wife and my man Dre came to the rescue. They were like, "Hey, you should just like do a video series." And that was right when kind of YouTube was just like, people was just starting to really do web series.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about the love and dating industry, especially for Black people at that time, is that a lot of the men, not a lot, all of the men went by aliases.
Oh.
Yeah, like they didn't go by their real names. It was like the loveologist, or it was like,
Oh. Okay.
yeah, it was like my man Rich Jones, who's incredible. He went by Slim Jackson. Freaking Damon from Very Smart Brothers. He was like the champ. Like that was it.
Right.
The champ.
Right. I remember
It
that.
was just aliases, and not only was it aliases, but everybody hid. Like I literally remember the biggest cat out at that time was the loveologist, who I still to this day don't even know what his real name is. And I remember saying, "Yo, I want to do an event with you. I want to do an event with you." He was like, "Okay, so you got to set up this." He's like, "You got to set up a sheet so nobody sees me." I mean, that's how crazy it was.
Right.
And so I said to myself, "Okay, I'm gonna come out and just be me, like Paul, Carrick, Brunson."
Mm-hmm.
And so I did a so right before coming out, like I was preparing to be a matchmaker, and I started taking on pro bono clients just to learn matchmaking, the art of it. And so then a year later, right when I met you, is right when I had that was a very like big year for me, because I put my web series out. It was called The Modern Day Matchmaker, and nobody really watched it. Like even if you go now, it'll have like very low views, and nobody would watch this thing. Like I would put it out, like it get 11 views, it get 12 views, and I knew my mother was watching 9 times. Like it was one of those nobody was watching, but it turned out that Oprah Winfrey was one of those views.
Oh wow!
Yeah. I mean, and there's so many lessons in there, because how was it that she found me? She found me because one of my pro bono clients, who I did not know, because she kept her identity private, was one of Oprah's friends, and she was on Oprah's plane one day, and Oprah was like, I'm coming up with an idea for a love and dating show. And the friend was like, "Oh, have you heard of this guy, Paul Carrick Brunson?" Oprah's like, "No." So they go to YouTube, and that's how, and she would watch.
Wow.
And I had no idea.
Wow.
And
There's so
it
many
really
lessons in that right now, in that story right there.
Man, it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
So that's
crazy.
how you got hooked up with Oprah.
That's how it happened. And then how you and I connected is that, so right when I hooked up with Oprah, I also got a book deal.
Okay.
And
how did you get the book deal? Was it through efforts, or was it something that somebody saw your YouTube or saw your, was watching you and were like, "Yo, you need to write a book"?
Yeah. An editor, associate editor, was just watching me on Twitter. And at that time on Twitter, I was doing this thing called Modern Day Matchmaker Wednesday.
I think I remember that.
Yeah,
you had all the single Black woman attention. I remember that, bro.
Yeah,
and that's when Twitter was. That's what I don't think Instagram was around, so everyone was on Twitter.
Man, everybody was on Twitter, and it was a small community. And at 12 o'clock on Wednesdays, I would put up an eligible bachelor.
How
and
would
we
you meet
would
these
do.
eligible bachelors? They would just submit their stuff to you, or you would just find them.
Yeah, well, so it was two things. One is we were running, a legit agency where we had mostly women clients, but we would also have male clients.
Okay.
So some of those bachelors were our actual clients who had come to us because, of the website or because they saw, an interview that I did, that kind of thing. But then what we started doing is we started just doing straight outreach. So if we were at an event, I would literally just walk. Oh, okay, your name's Kelsey. Okay, so are you single? Okay, you are single. So and that's how it would work.
Okay.
And on Wednesdays we would put up these bachelors, and it got so much attention that Gotham Books, that it was a subprint of a Penguin. They literally just DM'd me and said, "Have you ever?" They said, "If you ever think about writing a book, we would love for you to pitch us. Have you ever thought about writing a book?" And my response, I'll never forget it, was I responded. I said, "Oh, I already have a pitch. I'm ready."
Oh, wow. Did you have a
And
pitch?
I did not have the pitch. I didn't even know what a pitch was.
Oh,
I had no
wow.
idea what a pitch was. I
Wow.
said, I've got a pitch. I'm ready." And they said, "Okay, so when can you come to New York?" I said, "Next week. Let's do it." So I literally worked my ass off, figuring out how to put together a pitch, and I did.
Uh-huh.
And then went into their offices, pitched them, and literally, I walked out of the meeting, walked down the block, maybe halfway, and they called me and they said, we'd like to offer you a deal.
Wow. And the
Yeah,
Oprah thing was happening at the same time too.
yeah, yeah. And that, I mean, quite honestly, I think they gave me the deal because of the Oprah thing. Like, they were like, okay, he's got some heat.
Right,
So
right, right. Oh, so they knew that you had a situation going on with Oprah as well.
yeah, yeah. And they saw that. So they gave me a deal. So what was really good is, so I had the book deal, I had the Oprah deal, and then I was able to go to own separately outside of the TV deal to then get funding for a tour. And I
Oh,
and I yeah, and that's how we met. So I built the tour idea around being able to promote the show
right.
as well as promote the book.
Wow. Wow. It's amazing listening to this story, bro. Listen. I don't think a lot of people know this journey you've been on, bro. Like, and this is not
No,
even
man.
close where it's not even nowhere near where you are right now. So, okay, so I know we gotta speed it up a little bit, but how did the Oprah thing go? I'm sure the book went well because when I did that event in Brooklyn, ton of women showed up. I
Oh
think
yeah, man.
I think we had Estelle perform. I forgot, but it was a good turnout, and this was like in some Ghana, somewhere nobody black people wouldn't show up. Then they showed up.
Yeah, man. It was epic, man. I mean, I only have one regret. You know what that regret is?
What's that?
Is that we, and so I have to take the responsibility on my team, is we messed up the orders. So we
Oh,
we had, so opening week, between we did like 6 big events
mm-hmm.
that whole week. We had over 2,000 sales,
Wow.
over 2,000 sales first week. And the way that we were selling, so what we were doing is we were saying, you buy the ticket to the event, and for the ticket price, you get the book.
Right.
The problem is then we ran all of the book orders off of like 2 or 3 credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
So we found out that those didn't count as independent sales.
Mm.
And then it ended up just messing up the New York Times bestseller list.
Wow.
Because
So you would have been on there if you didn't if you had made these individuals put their credit card information in, individually.
man, we possibly would have been number 1, 2, or 3.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was man, it was like I was depressed because that was part of it. Because what I've learned over the years, and what I had even knew at that point, is that leverage is really everything.
Mm.
Like when I look back at my career, everything was leverage. It was like it was like, so the OWN deal really happened because I was a writer for Essence.
Mm.
A matter of fact, man, this was back in the day when Essence had 5 main writers,
Mm-hmm.
and Essence would profile their writer of the day on the first page of their site.
Mm-hmm.
Every writer had one day. Demetria had a day. I had a day. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So you would go to essence.com on whatever, like Tuesday, and you would see my face plus my article. It was just like, it was unbelievable. It was
Right.
incredible. But
How did you start writing for Essence? You didn't.
that's the thing. It was the leverage. So I started writing for Essence because I was writing for, what was it? Clutch Magazine, which was a small site. And I got to Clutch because I was writing for
And you were talking, and you were
or,
writing about matchmaking and relationships and all that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So leverage was everything. So, in my mind, right around the time when we did those events, my drive was to leverage the events to get the New York Times bestseller list.
Mm-hmm.
So the events were great, man, but we didn't get the list because we just messed up administratively.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, it was great, man. I ended up doing. This is funny. I ended up doing. So we did the show Lovetown.
Yeah. How was that experience?
It was the best of worlds and the best of times and the worst of times.
Mm-hmm.
It was my first TV gig. I never even thought I'd get a TV show, and here I am, first TV show, and I'm co-starring with Oprah. It's crazy. So you could imagine that that's really dope, but at the same time is very stressful.
Yeah, you got to show up and, produce. You mess with Oprah.
You got to produce at the highest level, and then also too, like, that was when the OWN network wasn't the strongest.
Right. They were still trying to figure out, their programming and, what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, man. I mean, I remember saying, the show's on the OWN network, and people would say, "What channel is that?"
Right.
It's like,
it was weird. It's like some channel West Bubble, like 180 something. I'm like, is that a channel? I remember that.
Yeah, man. So it was one of those where, it just didn't get it. The show didn't get
traction.
We just didn't get traction. But OWN was really good, man. So OWN gave me another deal.
Oh.
And yeah, man. This is, I don't think anybody knows this, is so then I did another show with Oprah.
Wow. I didn't know about that.
It was one pilot and done.
Oh.
So it wasn't my show. I was a correspondent. So the show was called Soul Pancake.
Mm-hmm.
And that cat from The Office, damn, I can't even remember his name, with the glasses.
Uh-huh.
But he and Oprah were the hosts of the show.
Okay.
And then they had 3 correspondents that they sent out all over the country to find these like heartwarming stories.
Oh, okay.
And so they sent me out to find like the love heartwarming stories.
Uh-huh.
And it was man, another dope experience. Like my second time on TV with Oprah.
Right.
Like, it was wins, and so that show, we did the pilot. Numbers were good, but it wasn't good enough to keep it going.
Mm.
So then that happened, but behind the scenes, the leverage was working. So right after that, man, I got a deal with NBC. Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, honestly, I've got stories for days. We're still 10 years ago right now.
I know. I'm trying to speed it up, but I'm like, this is like so, dope. I'm like, I can't speed this up, man. I thought, this is good stuff. This is really
Man.
amazing, dude. You need to write this book, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
You need to write
There's
this book.
there's
Your
there's,
second
there's
book.
stuff in here, man. There's
So,
stuff in here because
you got to, a deal with NBC. Were you still doing the matchmaking thing at this point?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
How was that
It
business
was good
going?
because it was big, because you can imagine coming off of
Yeah.
being with Oprah.
Yeah.
Man, we were huge. We were definitely one of the most successful matchmaking agencies in the country.
Wow. And catering to predominantly a black clientele. They were paying you to do this stuff.
Yeah, but see, all right, that's a good point. After the OWN show, the dominant audience actually was white women that watched OWN at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was when we started getting inquiries from everyone.
Oh.
And we had everyone.
Okay. So you weren't only for people of color, you were for everyone.
Yeah, man, we were serving everybody. And the agency grew. We had a dozen people on staff at the agency.
Wow.
Yeah, man. And then everything was popping. That's when I started becoming a professional speaker. Started getting paid to speak. That's when consulting started.
Uh-huh.
So I started consulting. I consulted all of the big, this is when dating apps were just getting started.
Uh-huh.
I was consulting the number 2 dating app at the time, and I'm talking about 6-figure contract consulting. Yeah. I mean, man, I had, at that time.
How are you able to manage all this, stuff that was coming in, opportunities that was coming into you? Did anything fall through the crack? I mean, did you, how were you able to keep everything, flowing and fluid and, give your best effort on each opportunity?
Team. Yeah, team. And this is where I think all that crazy stuff of me being writing business plans from, like a little age, like all it was very helpful, having run at that, by that time I had already run, small businesses, but like $6 million budget businesses.
Mm-hmm.
The nonprofit itself was over $1 million budget. Even going back to Animal Spot, like I was able to run. I was already experienced running larger entities.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a team, and so I had a team working on. Built out a whole team to work on the matchmaking agency. My wife was then full time. She was working in the business.
Oh, okay. She quit her job and just helping you full time doing it.
Yep, full time.
Wow.
Full time. She actually became the CFO.
Okay.
We had so many phenomenal deals. Like I sold the rights, my life rights, to Sony Pictures.
Wow.
Yeah, it was Columbia actually.
Are you trying to say they're gonna be a movie about you?
Well, see, this is one of the crazy things is that was right when remember the Sony hack?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of crazy, but we already wrote the manuscript. We spent a year writing the manuscript. Man, it was just, so I mean, the script is there.
Wow.
Yeah, but we sold that. I mean, it was just crazy. We the NBC deal that ended up not going. So it was a massive show. This show called Ready for Love.
Mm-hmm.
Eva Longoria was doing it, and a week or two before they started shooting, they replaced me.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's when I started to understand. It was crazy, man. It was right around that time is when I started to see like how rough television is,
Mm.
and it was funny because I would go to like a BET,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't black enough to for BET,
Uh-huh.
but for NBC I was too black.
Wow.
It yeah, it was crazy, and it wasn't just like quote unquote too black. It was I wasn't stereotypical black male.
They wanted
And
you to be that rough around the edges, hood, jock type, persona. Because I remember.
or or funny or just like straight like just telling
Oh.
jokes all the time. You
Mm,
know,
right.
you know, you know. So it was so they replaced me off the show, but it was great because they still had to pay me, so I still
Mm,
got my check.
right.
Um, and then we parlayed that, we leveraged that to another deal. So then I got a deal with NBC Universal. Um,
I mean, this is
man,
becoming
it,
like a TV personality now. Like, you had your matchmaking business going. You already wrote a book, did the own thing. So now you were in television.
yeah, it was legit. It's funny because I always look at TV as a part-time gig,
Uh huh.
but every year for the last 10 years, I've had a TV deal.
Right.
And, uh, some of the shows don't go, like the NBC Universal. We spent a year working on that deal,
Mm-hmm.
and we shot a pilot. I started doing integrations. Like, remember The Preachers of LA, that thing on
Mm-hmm.
Oxygen?
Yeah.
This crazy show. I did the after show for that. I
Oh.
hosted the after show. But it was just, man, every just doing different deals. So I did that. I did after that. I then got a deal with ABC News.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man, and I executive produced my own show. It ran under the 2020 banner,
Uh huh.
but it took us a whole year to shoot it, and I executive produced it. So man, every year I've done something in television, either producing or hosting. I did, man, 3 years I hosted Black Enterprise's Our World for 3 years.
Yeah. How was that? How was that experience?
Oh man, it was incredible. It was surreal because I literally grew up watching Ed Gordon host the show,
Mm.
and then watching Mark Lamont Hill host it. And they're two like legit icons,
Wow.
So to be able to host those, after them was great.
Right.
Um, yeah, man. I mean, it's been crazy. Like, I don't even know. Like, there's so many. We're still like 4 or 5 years ago,
I
man.
know, I
Where
know. How do we get current? I mean, I know recently you had another opportunity in London. I mean, tell me about that. You moved your whole family out there.
yeah,
Tell How did that go?
yeah.
How did that happen? And how was that transition taking your whole family? By now you have two sons, and your wife. How did that all came about?
It was I can't say it was a fluke, but it was literally they just saw me on social.
Wow.
They saw me on the social. They were like, hey, um, you know, so this is a show that's an established franchise
Uh
over
huh.
in the UK called Celebs Go Dating. It's a super popular show in the UK and kind of in Ireland, and they were looking for a new co-host,
Uh huh.
and they interviewed me, and they had never had an American do it. and they wanted to mix things up a little bit. So when the opportunity came up, my wife and I never took it seriously. Like, really, we always looked at it like, we're doing so many other things. Like, by that time, like we had sold our matchmaking business in 2016.
Okay.
But we were doing lots of other projects, like lots of other projects. And so to move to the UK for whatever amount of time was not necessarily something that was the top on our list.
Right.
But we looked at each other, we were like, why not? Why not? Why not get our boys out of this crazy country that's mowing down black men? Why not, expose them to a new culture? Why not, be only 4.5 hours away to take a trip to Africa, or 2 hours by train to get to Paris? Like, why not just do it? It's 3 or 4 months. So we took the gig, and we were able to still maintain all of our other gigs. And
what was your other gigs at the same time? You say you were doing a lot of projects. What kind of stuff you were, what your guys' hands were in?
Oh man, we public speaking, which is a legit once a month kind of big gig, thing. Consulting. I was consulting for Fortune 1000 companies.
Wow.
I was, at that time, I had become a business journalist, which I still am, for USA Today.
Right.
So I was a columnist. For USA Today, I was not only writing a weekly column, but I was also, that was in the paper and also online, but I was also hosting the first digital show for USA Today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was hosting, I was probably in my third year of hosting. I do these masterminds, these big cohorts, twice, 2 masterminds a year, where I'll have between 60 and 100 people in a cohort, and they're split up into different groups, but I'm teaching, entrepreneurship. So business startup, people who are either starting a business or people who are trying to grow their business from, maybe 50K in revenue to 500,000 in revenue.
Wow.
But business growth. So, man, I was like full out on the board of trustees for BA, for a university, for one of BAU schools here. I was, at that time, I started my project in Jamaica, building a school there. Yeah, I was busy. Wow. And so to leave was a lot, but we did it. And you know what? Once again, my wife was like, why not? And it's been one of the best experiences. So right now we live between DC and London. So the show is now I'm on my 3rd season of that show.
Wow. It seemed like yesterday you started it.
Yeah. Well, so it runs twice a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it runs like a soap opera. It's crazy. So we're on every night. We're on Sunday night through Thursday night.
Every night. Wow.
9 p.m., 1 hour every night. It's crazy, man. And man, it's like over 1 million people watch it every night. It's been a blessing because it's opened up a whole new community, a whole new set of experiences.
I can imagine. You're global now, bro.
Man, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Wow.
So we're doing that. And, there's a TV project that I'm working on here now in the States. So I'm doing both, and then still doing all the other stuff, the masterminds, the consulting, started investing. So this year we invested in our first big project. It's a coffee bean nursery farm, the only woman-owned coffee bean nursery in Jamaica.
You know what?
Durrett Houghton.
It's funny because I remember I used to stay at my grandmother. I think she stayed in St. Andrews, not in St. Andrews, St. Catherine.
St.
and
Catherine. Okay.
and they had these. She has these coffee trees, and the beans was just fall on the ground,
Yeah,
like
man.
like nothing, like nothing. It was just like fall on the ground, like tons of beans during the season, whatever. Nothing. If I knew, well, I was a kid then, but I could
Man,
imagine that's a great opportunity out there.
it's incredible, like the opportunity, because we did it. I mean, one is what I've learned now about investing over the years is you invest in the jockey, right, not
Right,
the horse.
right.
And so this Dorette is incredible. She's like just incredible,
Mm,
phenomenal person. So like that, I'm super excited about. As a matter of fact, I was on the phone talking to them this morning about us, how we're gonna brand, and so I'm all over the place, but doing like, man, just projects that I'm really passionate about.
right.
Uh,
I
yeah,
I noticed you didn't really, what motivates you is like you said, the problem, fixing the problem. Money wasn't your motivator, but look at all these things that came. The money came afterwards. Would you say that was the case in terms of, you just follow your heart, follow your passion, follow your instincts, and then everything else falls
yeah,
in place?
hands down. I'm a huge advocate on follow the opportunities to develop skills,
Mm,
because when you have extraordinary skills, the money and everything else follows you. Like, hands down, I passionately believe that. It's not about, people are like, okay, do you chase passion or do you chase money? I say no. If you chase passion, that's never, like, passion doesn't pay the bills.
mm-hmm.
And if you chase money, not all money is good money,
Right,
right?
right,
Um, but if you chase the skills, you chase the development of the skills. And that's even developing skills sometimes in places that you don't necessarily want to be. Like one
right.
of my gigs in high school, we didn't get into it, but I was a cashier at Wendy's.
Mm,
Man, I had no passion around that. But
right,
guess what? It taught me a lot about management. It taught me a lot about even managing money. Like, it's just like the skills. Like, you chase skills, and then you develop those into extraordinary world class skills. And then once you have those skills, you can then begin to create the opportunities.
right. But I began to leverage it into, opportunity that will in turn bring in revenue.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Yo, man, listen, I meant for this conversation to be an hour. It's like an hour going on, hour and 32 minutes. So I'm gonna wrap it up, man. I mean, oh my God, you dropped so much gems, but just any advice you want. I mean, follow the opportunity to develop skill. That's a great advice, actually, because you're right. Passion doesn't really pay the bills, and money is not always good money. So that's a really great advice. Like, you should trademark that statement, bro. That's I've never heard that before, but it makes
Job,
a lot of sense.
yeah, man, we'll put it in the next book.
Yeah,
But
man.
but outside of that, I would say the other part of this too is, man, keep good people around you.
Mm,
Throughout this whole thing, and I wasn't intentionally doing this, but I'm thinking back to our conversation. Is I probably said my wife like 50 times.
yeah.
She was instrumental. My man Dre.
Right.
God, man, he passed away 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I
but
heard
man,
about that.
I'm gonna tell you what. Yeah, man, he changed. I mean, just his friendship. It was changed my life. He
Yeah.
good people. Man, you think about this. We have like man, what was that? 10 years ago
It was a while ago,
that
bro.
where we met.
Yeah, it was a while. It was
Yeah,
a while ago. I did two events with you. You did an initial matchmaking event. I think this is when you was doing the business. You started out your business, and I remember you had, a ton of people there. I mean, I helped with the marketing and everything, but it was a whole operations going on. I think that's when I met Dre. And the second go around was the book launch event. So I don't know, man. It's been
yeah.
a minute. I've
It's
seen your journey, but I didn't know your journey. I've seen it from afar, but I haven't really, this is wow.
But man, I mean, like just our connection. It's like, man, you're good people. Like it's interesting, and I've got to tell you this too. So one of if I look back to the favorite moments I've ever had with my mother,
Mm-hmm.
a top 10 favorite moment happened because of you.
Word?
Yeah, man. That was you had a birthday party,
Right. Right.
and I remember that night because, man, everybody's like, yo, we're going to Kelsey's party, right? And I was like, Mom, because my mom was in New York. I was like, you want to go? And she said, I'm too old to go. I can't
Right.
go. And I said, no, come on, you can go. You can go. Come on, he's good people. Man. He's just gonna have good people there.
Right.
I took my mom. I took my cousin. She's my mom's first cousin. So she's my mother's age.
Uh-huh.
We went to your party, man. They had a great time. They had a great time.
I remember that party. It was like a Great Gatsby theme, and my own purpose was I just wanted us to look good in our best life, because I know there's a lot of young Black professionals here in New York, and there was no places for them to really shine. They would have to merge into the hip hop culture, or I wanted something where they could like be their best self. And that effort, that party took it was a party of passion because I believe in it, and it turned out extremely well, man. That was a dope. I remember seeing you there, and gave me some good. We talked a bit.
Yeah.
I think that's the time you told me, like, when you meet a wife, that's like the best thing that would ever happen to you. I think I remember that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. It was good, man. It was crazy too. I'm thinking about, man, we did another project together. You know what it was? It was, see, man, you have been my savior in New York, because I remember I was doing a segment on, remember Anderson Cooper had
that's right.
remember
That's
that?
right. That's right. And I think it was a last minute thing. You were like, get all these brothers together.
Yeah.
And man, it was something around with dating. What's her name? I forgot her name, but she's also a TV personality, and she was a young Black professional woman looking for love, or she was single, trying to figure out the dating life. And I think you were her like mentor, or you were her guide, or something like that.
Yeah. All right. So I got to disclose something about that moment that you may know already, because you're intuitive, but I think you should know if you don't know. So for everybody listening, so Kelsey in that segment, so that TV personality who will remain unnamed right now, in that segment, I had asked Kelsey to prepare for that segment. I had asked him to put together a group of men. So it might have been like maybe 12 fellas in the room.
Right.
And the idea was that she would walk into the room, mix it up with the 12, and then see if there was one that she was interested in.
Right.
So Kelsey arranged it. We were at, I don't know where we were. So he got it together. He got the 12 guys, right? He got them together. And then I'll never forget, we went in, we filmed it. She came back out, and off camera, she said, out of everybody, I want to talk to the dude with like the baby dreads. Like, that's that guy. I said, what?
What? Are you serious?
I'm dead. I swear. This
Wow.
is what she said. That's exactly what she said. She was like, out of everybody, that's who. And I was like, but he's off limits for this. He can't. He's not on.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know. See, man, I be missing signs, bro. I needed you in my life at a younger age. I think I missed a bunch of opportunities because I was my head was so down trying to like do the work. I wasn't trying to, I dated, but I wasn't trying to just use my platform for that. If it so happened that I meet someone, while I'm doing this work, that'd be great. But it was not. A lot of brothers, because I felt like it would have been a distraction if I just used it. And plus, credibility meant a lot. Like, oh, you're just doing these parties just to get honeys. I'm like, nah, I was really trying to, create a great, environment for people of young professionals of color so they could be their best selves. Still am actually. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
what happened.
I
That
didn't
was behind
know.
the scenes.
I
Yeah.
didn't know. I didn't know. I'm kind of glad I didn't
Yeah.
know though, because
It's
probably would have been
good.
distracted.
Yeah.
It would have been distracting. Wow. I'm saying wow because I'm thinking about the person right now, and she's doing her thing, and I was like, wow, okay.
Wow.
They know
Yeah.
my whole power.
Yeah. See that? You got crazy power. Crazy power.
Yeah, man. Yo, man. Yo, listen, man. It's going on an hour and 45 minutes. I'm not gonna cut none of this out, man. I think this is a great journey that you share with my listeners. It's gonna be they're gonna get so much from it, bro. And I want to thank you for I know we're supposed to stop at 2 o'clock. It's almost 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
So
My wife had already come to check in. It's good. It's good.
okay.
But thank you, man. I appreciate it. I will say that keep doing what you do. I'm appreciative and thankful for your friendship and all the help that you provided, to me over the years. So
Man,
thank
listen.
you.
Yo, keep doing your thing, bro. Like I said, you've inspired me over the years. You're still inspiring me, and your story now even more inspirational. So, by doing what you do, you shouldn't, you inspiring a lot of people beyond me. So, man, more blessings, more success, healthy family, all that good stuff, healthy wife, because clearly she is the rock of the whole situation. I just want you, keep thriving, bro.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Same. Same to you. Same to you. And your soon to be. I'm putting it out there.
Yeah, put it out
soon
there.
soon to be wife and your beautiful child, man. Same to you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you all for tuning into Reverse Ambition Podcast. It is really a pleasure sharing these amazing journeys with you. It may take some time for you to find your purpose and realize your dreams, or for your purpose and dreams to find you. When it happens, don't be afraid to pursue them. Be more afraid if you don't. Trust God, trust your journey, and most important, trust yourself, and it will all work out. Until next time, I am Kelsey Cooper, the Social Broker. Thanks again for listening.